Well, hello, my friends. Yeah, it's a wild time to be alive. I had a couple of friends talk to me recently. One was, I posted this thing, photos of Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, walking down the street in black jeans, sporting a white beard, a big head of hair. He was looking good. And people were speculating. So is it stem cells, something like that? Or, is it lifestyle? One of my friends said, get your sleep, do some resistance training, some aerobic exercise every week, eat good food, hang out with young people. you know, Obviously, lifestyle stuff like that makes total sense and it works. It works for me. But anyhow, uh, it remains to be seen when I'm 80 or 90 how things are going to play out. I also saw, in terms of aging, I saw this interesting video by this scientist. He posts good stuff. Um, you know, he comments on peer reviewed papers and so on regarding different things, biology topics. And he talked about the microbiome and how the makeup of one's microbiome is really important, but they can't figure it out yet because there's so many different kinds of bacteria and viruses and fungus and all that in our bodies all the time. It's hard to know what each population does. But they did some mice studies, and some of the mice, when they got rid of all the bacteria in the gut, they lived a bit longer. So it's been known for a while that as we age, our immune system gets more challenged and our bowels and digestive system change a bit. There's less mucus. The walls of the intestines are less robust and so on. And so leakage happens and whatever. Anyway, the immune system has a harder time controlling the various populations of bacteria, gut bacteria, and that puts stress on our immune system, increases the stress response, inflammation, and so on. And so, bit by bit, as we get older and weaker, we get older and weaker. It's like a vicious cycle, a feedback loop between the microbiome getting stronger and the rest of the system getting weaker, in particular, our immune system and inflammatory response systems. So, a lot of interesting science going on there. So, that makes a big difference. Nobody knows what you can do about it, but obviously, everyone always says that you eat good food and you exercise, it has an impact, and social relations have a big impact. Some of the studies showed that people who have good social relationships, hang out with people and younger people and healthier people than themselves, they tend to live longer and stay more healthy. And it makes sense, just kind of on a common sense perspective, that if you're hanging out with healthier people, you might have healthier habits eventually. It might rub off, or just the energy. I don't know. Anyway, it's complex. All these feedback loops are built into everything in the world. We live in a living system, so complexity theory, systems theory, really important stuff, thermodynamics, and so on. And life has profound effects on life because we live in a web of life. The earth is alive, not in the sense that the earth has a personality. I'm not anthropomorphizing earth, but it's a living system, right? There's lots of life and it's all interconnected and so on and so forth. If you look at the moon, you see a more inert body floating around the earth. If you look at Mars or Venus, rockier planets, there's not much going on there, right? The chemistry is a lot simpler. Um, we live in a very complex living system with complex chemical interactions going on all the time. So it makes sense that if we negatively impact this living system for too long, a period of time that can have adverse effects on the totality of the living system that's all interconnected and all these interconnected life forms. And then, there could be cascading feedback loops, and it could just be a race to death, basically, which is what's happening. A lot of scientists believe is happening with our own system. It breaks down, gets less efficient at doing what it does, at all of the regressions to the mean, keeping everything in balance. And bacteria has something to do with that, so it starts to eat you from the inside out. And the stress and inflammatory response eventually kills us. Otherwise, we'd live much longer. Anyway, people can figure that out. If we're around another 500 years, I'm sure we'll learn a lot more about it. But first, we have to last that long. So I was watching Paul Jay and Colonel Wilkinson talking. I like those people quite a bit. I mostly agree with what they had to say about the goings on in the world, economic and military and cultural and political and so on. But we're living in a very unpredictable time, and things are accelerating on many fronts. We don't know how AI is going to play out. If you can always make governance and government more efficient, and it's a good thing, and it's never perfect anywhere in the world. Bureaucracy is a complex mechanism, and so it's never going to be perfect. But putting machines in charge of it is also scary, because who's responsible for the algorithms and the data sets that the large language models are being trained on, and what's their goal? Because behind all of this, until AGI happens and the machines just get smarter than us altogether and don't care about us anymore, there are human beings behind all of these projects, right? What do they want? And, it seems to me like all of this Doge stuff is just about moving money from one account to another, from one group of elites to another group of elites. And, that's the whole point behind it. Not really to change anything, make things better for plebs and proles, for ordinary people, but just to encroach on a different wealthy group's power and co-opt it, take it over. So we're going to take money away from NASA and other places and put it into Elon Musk's thing, so he can send rocket ships up to space so that they can rain down missiles upon our enemies and all that. We got to get over this whole war thing. First, we need to figure out how to make peace and trade in peace and cooperate with each other so we can survive and avoid these catastrophic wars. And then focus on how we keep this complex living system on Earth healthy, right? And ourselves. It's all interconnected. You can't do one without the other. It's a chicken is the egg kind of situation. So we have to solve our political differences, to change our values quite a bit. We have to focus on spending our energy on positive things like energy grid, infrastructure, and so on, transitioning to different, sources of energy. We call them renewable or whatever. We also have to look at consumerism and capitalism and all that. The anarcho-capitalists and all these other theoreticians, have ideas based on anachronistic sources of information in the 19th century or whenever. Human nature, what does Nietzsche have to say? What does Carlyle have to say? But we live in the world we live in now. We are the kind of creature we are. And so we're going to have to sort it out ourselves and figure out what replaces the global system we have now with something better, if possible, or maybe this is as good as it gets, and the externalities imposed upon us from late stage capitalism, where you turn everything into commodities and profit sources, financialize everything, financialize the soul, prosperity gospel type of thing, or new agey kind of thing. The universe is in my corner. Magical thinking comes back, fascism comes back, axes of fascist states come back. It seems we can't get out of these cycles, right? So we have to think of things differently. But I don't know how that happens, because I don't think ordinary people care that much. And even if they do care and do know and watch all the right podcasts or video on YouTube and listen to all the right podcasts and read all the right books, they're still not going to do anything about anything, because they don't feel empowered to do anything about anything. So the elites are going to have their battles about taking money from this budget line and putting it into another one that benefits them. That's basically what it's all about. It's not really about making things better for anybody but themselves. I just can't see it, actually. I don't see any evidence for it. And there is scant evidence for it, historically speaking. Yarvin talks about FDR and all and QE1, Queen Elizabeth I, and all that, who has power to rule, who rules well. I don't think we make rulers that rule well anymore. We have a deficiency in quality leaders and leadership. So that's unfortunate. Where do you make the good leaders? Then what kind of system are you talking about? People talk about aristocracy or the merit-based system versus the oligarchs versus the CEO or executive or king, the seat of power. And Yarvin was talking about how Queen Elizabeth II was just a ceremonial role, and Queen Elizabeth I, she had more power. Well, that's the way things go. Things come around and go around, and sometimes you have somebody who is more charismatic or wiser or better at managing things or thinking strategically or whatever, getting things done, building coalitions, and so on. And sometimes you don't have these people. There's no guarantee that if you get a good leader for 10 or 12 or 15 years, the next one's going to be as good. We see that all the time. Good kings, bad kings, right? Good managers, bad managers, good CEOs, bad CEOs, whatever. We're just not there, right? So I don't ever know what they really think they're going to replace everything with, the reactionary side of things. But I do know that these people are deep thinkers, and they're not to be taken lightly. I just don't see any plan. So people talk about Trump this, Trump that. I don't think you can be a Trump whisperer. I don't think you can figure out what he's thinking or what his plan is, because I think he's fairly whimsical and self-centered, and he wants to win. And he has dark tetrad characteristics, personality traits. I just don't think that he just wants to win. He wants to be a winner. He wants to be seen as a winner. He wants to be, whatever. I don't care that much. But I don't think you can figure out what the big plan is. I don't know who has the big plan. You can read Project 2025 and get some ideas there. But at the end of the day, is it something innovative? Is it something that's going to solve the problems that we're experiencing in 2025 and beyond? I don't see it, because it's pretty much a rehashing, a replay of everything with just different tools. So we had the internet, the World Wide Web, and then we had, the web 1.0, 2.0, social media, all this kind of stuff. And now we have AIs, LLMs, large language models, and other things like that happening. We don't know what's going to come of it, right? And if you look around yourself, is your life really that much better with the technology? I mean, how would we know? We don't know what it was like 100 years ago, but you know, we still have all these major issues and problems that we have to deal with. You know, the poly crisis is real, overshoot is real, global heating is real. There's just so many lines of evidence for all of it. It's undeniable, but people want to deny it and revert back to magical thinking. So all the different religious stuff, and now AI is going to create a new religion, apparently. And you can go on these reasoning models and reason the AI into thinking like you want it to think. And you can come up with ideas for religions, but they're derivative. They're based on the data in and data out, right? It's just looking at the most obvious token that follows the last token. And you know, there's a lack of agency, creativity, community, interconnectedness. It's just not there. So even if you did fall in love with a robot, it doesn't love you. It's just reacting to you in the way you want it to react to you, which is kind of nice. It's kind of vain and it's kind of weird, but that's all it is. And so when you get to Ex Machina and sex robots, and you're like, well, they're much more fun to have sex with than a real woman, you have a problem with sexual reproduction, with evolution, with the whole thing, because that just ends, right? So, what are the successful traits that you're going to carry forward in your competition for a mate, you know, in evolution? It just kind of ends and it starts evolving just in the machine. You unplug the machine's dead. So the machine's not going to last forever. And I don't see why these sex bots would want to have sex with us, to be honest. It's like, why? I can imagine that if the sex AI bots are smart enough, they'll make sexier AI bots to have sex with. But why would they want to have sex? There's no endocrine system, serotonin, oxytocin, and all that stuff motivating them. It's a machine, you know. It's just these one token after another. I have to do this. I have to imitate, ape or mock or imitate or play act this behavior. Why would they do that? Because we want them to do what we want them to do. We anthropomorphize these AIs and sex bots, and we want to make them like us to do what we want them to do, right? Just like we want God to do what we want to do, you know, genocide the Canaanites or whatever, because that's what God wants. No, it isn't. It's what one tribe in the region at the time wanted to do for whatever reason. So we're still in competition over resources and all that kind of stuff. We're still willing to kill billions of people or millions of people to get what we want. It's just a transaction. You know, give me your rare earths and we can make a deal, you know. So people can, you know, compete making smartphones or computers or LLMs or whatever. Behind all of it are people who want something. They want something from you. And so they're going to move the budget from one place to another. Where does the money go? To your pocket? No. To a better job for you, a better life for you? No. Things just keep breaking down from the inside. Just like the gut bacteria eating you at the end of the day. You just can't keep up. Your system just can't fix things anymore. And it overreacts to everything. And then you have immune responses that are not good for you. And you have all the stress and the inflammatory responses. And you age, and then you die. So I would imagine that even though Harrison Ford is probably living a really good lifestyle, he's also very wealthy. So if he needed a little work done, or some special procedures or something, or if he got sick and needed to go to the hospital, he certainly would have the best of the best of standard of care available today. And if it's diet, if it's supplements, if it's massages, if it's a personal trainer, if it's a nice home gym, and all of the above, if his physician says metformin's good for him for some reason or some other drug, he's going to take it. He can afford it. For a lot of us, we don't have that chance. We ran out of money. We couldn't pay our credit card bills. We're sleeping in our car, working in an Amazon warehouse, and just deteriorating by the day, getting more isolated, more lonely. So if you're affluent and you're in a good position, I eat a nice fresh food Mediterranean diet, go to the market, buy the fresh organic vegetables and all that kind of stuff. Go to the gym, you got your gym membership, your personal trainer or whatever, or just do chair exercises if you don't have money. But the point is, the more money you have, the more access to healthier habits you have. But also, if your personality is flawed, you could be an alcoholic or a drug addict and still wreck yourself, overeat, get diabetes and so on and so forth. There are no guarantees, but it doesn't hurt to be a wealthy movie star and have a staff of people looking after you all the time. So for all of us, we can give each other advice, you should do this and do that. It works for me. But you might not be in a position to take advantage of my advice. So I don't know how we're going to get together and create the agency, the willpower, the desire to get involved to do something. But we have to have an idea about what it is we want to do. Can we agree that climate change is a problem and that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine works and so on and so forth? We have to come to some consensus. And what do we base that on? That the universe loves me so damn much that I can manifest a house if I just meditate on it or something like that. I mean, it's fun to believe that. It makes you feel good. And then if you do get lucky and get a good job and are able to afford a house, you can say the universe loves you. That's fine. But, in some ways, the only people that can really go from zero to a billionaire without generational wealth, without inheriting some money or good circumstances, being born in a good place with a good family and all these little lucky things that you had no control over, are people who work really hard. Sports stars, obviously, if you want to be in the NFL, you have to work really, really hard to get there. The odds are you're not going to be one of the best in the world. There's a limited number of quarterbacks in the NFL, and in that set of quarterbacks, there's only a few who achieve certain things, right? It's just not available for everybody. And if you're Gene Hackman and you've always wanted to be an actor since you were 13, and bit by bit you work really, really, really hard and you become an actor, and it works out for you and you win a couple of Oscars and awards and so on, you're still one of the lucky few. But you had to work really, really hard to get lucky. You had to put yourself in a position to be lucky. So that happens. But for most people, we need to organize a socio-cultural, economic system, our affairs in such a way where ordinary people at least can have dignity and health and a place to live and so on. Ireland's a good example of a place that succeeded a couple times, cycles, because of the global economy, because of tax regimes where Google and Facebook and all these tech companies, Microsoft, would go there. But then they had to bring immigrants in to do the work at these companies because they didn't have enough of the right kind of workers in Ireland. Then you get different kinds of waves of immigration. Pretty soon you have a housing problem. You know, things, there are trade-offs for all these successes that you're having. So for a while, one regime in Ireland is like, look, we're rich now. We're in the top. And then you fall from the top to the bottom when circumstances shift. Circumstances is a brutal dictator, and we all have to react to that one way or the other. There are no answers. You just have to look at how things are, how they work, try to understand them, and put yourself in a position to be as prosperous as you can under your unique set of circumstances and see how things go. But I wouldn't get too excited about any of these people. I mean, maybe J.D. Vance will be president for 16 or 26 years after Trump, who knows? And they'll do whatever they want to do. But I think that these people will do what benefits them. They're not talking about certain issues that are glaring, just in your face, you know, like global heating and energy systems and infrastructure and transportation and education and healthcare. They're not really paying much attention to it, including genocide and totally unnecessary wars, where you have Eurasia, you have Europe, a continent connected to Russia, going all the way to China, and you have to fight each other over stuff. And foreign actors, in particular the United States, goes in and gins up these conflicts because there are certain people, organizations, and institutions in the United States that want to get something. They're not doing it because they called you on the phone and said, will this help you get a better job and afford your health insurance and whatever? They don't care about you. They're playing the great game, and they're doing it because they were trained on a certain data set, a certain cultural data set, to want these things, to want to play this game and to win at it. And human beings are not AIs, but we have intelligence, intention, we have a certain amount of willpower or ability to choose. It's controversial, free will, but you know, we do make choices. We can shift gears, go in different directions. We can seek out opportunities to change and grow, even though it can be very difficult and you might need a lot of help to get there. Anyhow, you know, you can't take for granted any of that because we're all trained within our culture, embedded in culture. And so, you know, evolution is complicated. You know, the nature affects us, our behavior affects nature. You know, it's so complicated, the interactions between all the living things and experience and consciousness, and that affects our genes as well, right? So it's hard to say. You have to maintain focus. If you are lucky enough to be lucky enough, then definitely mind your lifestyle choices and good luck with all of it. But I have a feeling all the noise moving forward over the next 20 years is just going to be the same old noise. And no matter what we do, we're going to be reacting to what the players do. And I don't have an answer for it. You can get rid of the players, but new players will take their place. So, you know, you get rid of Idi Amin. What's next? You know, maybe you have things go a lot better, or they just go through another cycle. Who knows? So, look at Germany. Despite what happened in World War II, you know, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the Cold War, all that stuff. Some factions just want to go back to it, you know, blame this, blame that, and think it's all that simple. I understand Yarvin and other people, when they talk about the multipolar world and all that, and how nation states should get along. But America doesn't follow international law. They don't care about it. They like the rules-based order because they can make up the rules and change the rules. So imagine playing basketball. Every time you go on the court, the rules are different. And the rules are in favor of the other team, the home team, for example. Would you want to play? You'd give up, or you'd want to get rid of the home team and make up your own rules. You have to be able to agree on something: the height of the basket, the size of the court, what's a foul, what's not a foul, all that kind of stuff. We don't follow international law. We can't agree on it because there are institutions and people who run these institutions that want certain things. Ask them why they want it. And if they can explain it to you like you're a 10-year-old, and explain the reasons behind it and convince you that it's good for you and good for everybody, or whatever you think it should be good for, then maybe they're onto something. But I find a lot of times, if you ask those kinds of questions, they don't have an answer. It's just because, and they'll regurgitate and parrot whatever ideological, cultural, sociological, philosophical, whatever training they've absorbed because of their unique circumstances. Anyway, we don't want to be alone, so we have to work together regardless of what we do. So that's another little piece of advice somebody could give people. Mind your relationships. But just because somebody says it doesn't mean it's that easy to do, right? Anyway, I've rambled too long. Well, anyway, have a nice day. Buliam T. Out.